I've been closely following the case of the missing mother from Salida, Colorado, Suzanne Morphew, and we have just learned that there has been an arrest in the case. Her husband, in fact, Barry Morphew. A little bit more on the case from retired police commander and host of Profiling Evil, Mike King. Mike, thanks for joining me today. I
Yeah,
appreciate it. I know
great to be
you
with you.
and you have been following this very closely. It's been almost a year since she went missing.
Yeah, I mean this is a great day for the Mormon family, and I specifically say the Mormon family because Andy and his family are the ones that I have watched really put boots on the ground and put effort forward. We watched Andy's army come out and search for Suzanne last fall. We've seen them continue to do what they can, but you know what? It's also a really difficult day for the Morphew children. I just can't imagine what those girls are going through as they grapple with the idea that their father's now been charged with murder.
It's been, again, almost a year. May 10th was Mother's Day, and we're coming up on Mother's Day. And so much has happened, and hundreds, if not thousands, of tips and interviews. What do you think happened today? I know that you have some insight and some things that you can't talk about, but what do you think changed this week that led to an actual arrest?
Well, my personal opinion is the thing that changed the most was you got a go-getter DA in January that has the courage to file a circumstantial case. Now, I can only hope that DA Stanley actually was presented with more evidence that was created since she became DA. But I wondered if there were concerns with evidence and other kinds of things with the prior district attorney. But what we've seen is, I think, a courageous team step up, because circumstantial cases where you don't have a body, they create challenges in and of themselves, but it's not something that can't be over or surpassed like we saw in the Kelsey Shelling case with Dante Lucas. I mean, these circumstantial murder cases can be won.
So we know that Barry was arrested this morning. I'm assuming not in Colorado. Do you have any insight on that?
Well, what I'm understanding is he's being processed in Chaffee County. So
Hmm.
unless they caught a direct flight, but I think it happened here, but I'm not exactly
Yeah, we
sure.
don't know that yet.
I know the
Yeah,
girls are still local, so.
they are. I know that his house, their family home was sold. Someone else is now living in that house or presumably has moved in. But what happens next? We know that we're going to get a little bit more information. What do you think will happen next? This could get drawn on for a long time.
Yeah, well, obviously the first step now will be that initial appearance where the formal charges will be read. I hope that we see the affidavit that talks about the arrest release, but as I looked through the records this morning, they haven't made those available. In fact, they're sealed up. So at some point, they've got to release the affidavit so we know what gave them the probable cause to charge. And then, of course, if Barry chooses to waive a preliminary hearing, we could wait for a long time until trial to actually hear what the evidence is. But what we do is we start the clock rolling now, and we start to look at all the things that will unfold. We'll start hearing now more and more information coming out, just because this social machine that we're involved with now, it doesn't
That's
allow it
right.
to not sneak out.
Yeah. So we were hearing some information about tampering of evidence. Do you have any insight on that?
Well, I mean, it makes pretty good sense if in fact he is the suspect. We know that he's the suspect, but if he is responsible for this and Suzanne's body wasn't found at the home, that is evidence in and of itself. And just transporting it, we have to look at the fact that there are multiple crime scenes involved in these kinds of cases. There's a place where the actual homicide happened in this case, most presumably would be the house. And we continued to talk about the fact that we weren't ready to leave the house yet. There's evidence that was surely collected there. But there's a disposal site wherever it is that Suzanne was disposed of. And each of those crime scenes have really unique behavioral characteristics. They have personalities all of their own as we think about why was that site selected? What was it that made the offender feel like they could have some level of guarantee that they wouldn't be caught by using that location or committing the crime in this location? And so then we look at, as people put forward effort to try to conceal the truth, they end up naturally tampering with evidence. And so the thing that will be interesting, I think, Natalie, is to see what the evidence is that starts to come out to help prove the probable cause to take this to trial.
Do you think that we will learn that, or do you think that that will remain sealed?
Oh, no, I think we absolutely will learn it as the court process comes out, because it'll have to become public
It'll have to be.
information. Now, most agencies release the affidavit. We saw yesterday with Love Has Won, the affidavit was released by the sheriff's office immediately. So we really saw what the elements of the crime were and what the evidence was that they used for probable cause. So I think it's going to be natural that it's going to unfold. We're going to learn more. Law enforcement has, rightly so, kept as much information as they could close to the vest. While it's frustrating to us as the public, and I'm now the public, they're doing the right thing. They're keeping it close to the vest so that they can solve a crime.
I spoke with Andy Moorman when he led up that search back in the fall, and he was so frustrated and wanted so badly to find some information when that whole army of people came out to help search in multiple locations, and they ended up, from what we learned, I don't know about you, not really finding anything. He has been very quiet in the last 3, 4, maybe even 5 months. What do you think he's thinking? And do you think that he will speak publicly?
I think number one, Andy has mentioned that he needed to kind of put his life back in order after doing that. That was a Herculean effort that he and his family put together in putting that search together. I think that the evidence will prove that there was more that came out of that search than maybe people would like to report, especially the sheriff, who reported, we followed up on leads, but there was nothing happening. I'm going to be interested to watch to see the information that was supplied to the sheriff that I'm aware of and that others did that may become important in the case. It may not. But I'm just proud of the whole Mormon family, because I am sure that the law enforcement folks contacted them at some point and said, now's the time to talk less and let us do our job, especially as they knew they were tightening the noose.
Which could have been over the last few months, to just lay low, let us take the information, maybe some that you gave us, process it, wait for the right time, which it appears the right time was early on May 5th, 2001, when Barry Morphew was arrested.
Yeah, and we don't know how much this clock has been slowed down by the coronavirus disease and the fact that we couldn't get a grand jury together or other kinds of things. There are a lot of things that will come into this story that will be aha moments for all of us, I think.
How is this compared? And I know your history as a police commander. You worked in serial crimes many years. You covered cases. Any of them like this? Are there any similarities to cases that you covered?
Oh gosh, I had the opportunity to work on a lot of unsolved homicides where some that we had bodies on, some that we didn't. We actually created in Utah a program called UTAP, Utah Criminal Tracking and Analysis Project. And the whole purpose of that was to look at cold cases and go back. And while we, always seem to talk about the first 48, time is not necessarily an enemy to law enforcement. We're seeing it happen over and over again. In fact, even in Stanley's 11th district, just a few weeks ago, we saw Alan Lee Phillips charged with a 40-year-old homicide. Sometimes it just takes a little time to put all the pieces together. The thing that troubles me is that we have to become better in law enforcement in keeping the victims' families aware that we haven't forgotten them. Even if that answer is another month has passed and we want you to know we haven't forgotten you. Don't have anything to report, but we're still, your loved one is still important to us.
Yeah, so important. You're right. I've covered many cases over the years where they do feel lost and left out. One other thing I want to ask you about, because I find it fascinating as a reporter and as a journalist, is this this public sourcing of information and searches. And I spoke with the nice guys at Adventures with Purpose, and them coming out and looking in some of the water areas, and they are doing amazing things with Adventures with Purpose. How is that changing even what you do, profiling evil, and people getting involved outside of the law enforcement community? How does that change an investigation?
Well, first, Jared Lysick at Adventures with Purpose is a friend and someone that I just have a great deal of respect for. He has, I know of 5 bodies that he's recovered when everyone else has given up. That guy is a dog on a bone when it comes to these cases. What I caution people about, and caution Jared about often, is something that I call public CSI, but I call it crowdsourced intelligence. Now, sometimes YouTubers and others want to be crowdsource investigators, and I think that's just stepping a little bit too far over the line for my comfort. Maybe they're comfortable, but I think the police have the authority and the responsibility. But if we can leverage this social world that we're becoming parts of and push people to report the things they know to the proper authorities, I think we'll solve more cases. And that's what I think. And I think law enforcement has a lot to learn in evolving to where they really understand. I mean, you think about your relationship over the years as a reporter. We always had this kind of love-hate relationship between police and the press. You absolutely changed cases over time, but we absolutely didn't want you to know certain things because it would make our job harder. Well, if we can somehow get law enforcement to leverage and embrace this crowdsourced intelligence,
you bet.
I think everyone.
Yeah. You talk about that relationship with the media and law enforcement. We need each other. Absolutely. We need each other. And in some ways, the law enforcement, they need the public too. I mean, they have the information. There are people who know what happened in this case with Suzanne Morphew. There's someone who knows. Maybe that's Barry. Maybe that's someone else who maybe we'll find out about that later. But we need each other to get these cases solved. Yeah. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Let's chat again soon, and let me know how I can help you all, and keep doing great things.
I look forward to it. We're going to have to get you on our Monday night choir practice to talk about your channel and explore some of these cases, because you've got some wacky cases going on in Colorado.
Isn't that the truth? I don't know why that bothers me, but we got to get them figured out, and together we can help each other do that. I'd be honored to be on with you all. You do a great job. All right. Thanks, Mike. Take care.